Hello, everybody. Green Effect Podcast, Season 3, Episode 30. Just so you know, I wasn't lying the last few episodes. I have a guest. I have looped someone into my podcast. They have shown up. She's for real. The person I've been talking about for weeks is here. She kind of had a scheduling conflict, like getting married and stuff. So, whatever. We're going to cut her a little bit of slack. So, Brittany Dewing, how are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. This is incredible. I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing fantastic. How
Even
are
though you're
you?
married now.
Yes, it got better. Some people,
Oh,
it did get better.
give it time. Give it time. I'm kidding. I'm kidding for all the people out there. I'm very happily married. It's all good.
That's too
So
funny.
I wanted to have you on. Obviously we've kind of known each other, kind of, sort of, for many years, and then when I became a mortgage broker, we kind of connected in a totally different realm. So Brittany, you're a financial broker, okay?
hmm
And of course, that's one of the reasons why I kind of connected with you because I'm like, what the heck's a financial broker? So tell the people, what is a financial broker? Because it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that because I think it's really cool. Essentially, what I do is I have multiple companies that I partner with, so over 50 financial firms. And it's not just one financial product or one financial service. So you specialize in mortgages. I will refer to you for mortgages because that's not my area of expertise. But what I can do is I kind of feel like I'm a connector. So I connect the clients with the right company. I connect the clients with the right service or product that they have that best fits their needs. It's a lot of
And so
choice, we'll
financial,
say.
it's kind of whatever financially. Like we're talking insurance, investments, mortgages, whatever, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, very cool. Now, how does someone get into that? Like, how did you get into financial work? There's a lot of probably other jobs you could have done, right? Why financial brokering and what was the draw to that?
Well, so how much time do we have? um,
Less than an hour,
I'll,
so go.
yeah. So essentially, I spent the last 10 years as a registered psychotherapist. And in that 10 years, I saw a lot of people fall through the cracks of a system. So whether it was the mental health system, the education system, the financial system, and when you always kind of say things don't really impact you until they impact you, right? And that's kind of my story is my husband, my now husband, we had bought in our house, and 6 months after we purchased and moved into our home, he was in a really bad motorcycle accident.
Right.
So I will give you the Coles notes. He's okay now. He's back to work. He survived. It's all good now. But that experience of being in our home only 6 months and then going through the process of applying to his workplace disability and the hardship that we had, and I had to take off of work to full-time caregive for him, it really opened my eyes to it's no matter of a what if, it's a matter of when things happen.
Scary.
It's so scary. And that year, so this was 2019. That year, I also had a friend from work. He was 34. He passed away from cancer. And I've also just experienced a lot of other friends having cancer in mid 30s. So it was really hard to watch people that I care about, including myself and my own family, go through these financial challenges. Meanwhile, you're already dealing with a really hard situation, right?
Yeah.
An injury, a disability. And I saw the industry leaving my family behind because we didn't have anything personal in place. We weren't shown the
Right.
importance of life insurance or critical illness or disability plans. We only started thinking about them when we recognized, hey, we might have needed them.
Yeah.
So
So
that's what
let me.
drew me into, sorry, that's what drew me
Nope.
into it was if I'm relatively a highly educated person, if I wasn't shown the industry, the ins and the outs, how many more families are also not shown the ins and the outs of the financial industry.
Well, and I think so obviously in my previous life, I worked for a major bank and did mortgages there. And I don't want to get into creditor insurance, regular insurance. I don't want to get into that, but I know that when I talk to younger people, and yes, Brittany, you are younger, okay? So I'm pretty sure younger people think, oh, I got my first home, I'm invincible, it's all good, I go to work every day. Uh, They they don't get that. They don't understand, right? Until you go through that, you don't get it. And I've been through it. Like my wife, and I've said this on the podcast, she hasn't worked since 2016 because of health reasons. And like good luck getting your work's long-term disability to approve anything. Like horrible. And so when people tell me, "Oh, I have work insurance," I'm like, "Well, you may as well have nothing because it's garbage. Like they're just going to shoot you down until you beg and plead and get a lawyer involved who's going to take half of whatever you're going to get anyway." So people don't get it, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we experienced with my husband is, and it was shocking because he was in a wheelchair. He was stuck in our basement. We had to have our whole house turned into basically like a retirement home so that he could get upstairs and shower and all the grab bars and all of these things. And it
Yeah.
shocked me that he was originally denied his long-term disability at his workplace. And so
Really?
like it was so shocking. Even his family doctor at that time was like, this is surprising. And so we really had to go through yet again another layer of hardship, and that was getting personal injury lawyers involved and having all of that component on top of physical injury and mental health stuff going on, and just all of that stuff. I think about how different his recovery and our relationship could have been if we didn't have that added stress on top of it.
Yeah. And people think, and I'm going to date myself here, but OHIP, so our provincial health plan, right? They,
Yeah.
they think, oh, that covers a lot of stuff. It covers nothing. Like
Yep.
not only that, but I'm sure you guys went through this as well. The income replacement as well. Like, you're trying to get this long term, and I know it's not 100%. Like,
No.
plus all the extra stuff you got to buy. I'm pretty sure, you had to buy your own bars and to make your house so he could get around it. I'm pretty sure they just don't give you the money to buy that stuff. So it's tough.
Yeah, it was a real eye-opening experience. And I mean, the other thing that I've seen is when it comes to loss, right? Why would you want to go through financial hardship on top of that?
Yeah.
So when my mom experienced this, actually when her mom passed away, she was fairly young, and I just watched money rip the family apart. And it's like, if people have their ducks in a row, you can eliminate so many challenges and so many hardships for family members. I just think it's our own personal responsibility to be accountable and responsible for our own personal financial plan.
Well, and they don't teach this stuff in school. I was just
No.
on another podcast, and I said they don't teach this stuff. Nobody knows what mortgage finance is. Nobody understands get insurance, right? They don't think of it, right? They'd rather. And listen, I'm guilty of this too. I'm not saying that I'm a star with that, but I'm guilty of. I'd rather go get a Starbucks drink at $20 instead of pay for life insurance or disability, right? So
Totally.
how do you you're sitting with clients, okay? And they're like, Brittany, come on, seriously, man. I'm 25. All right, I'm a skydiver. It's not a big deal. I'm never going to get hurt. How do you try to get them to wrap their brains around, guys, you got to have something now when you're young? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that normally I would prefer if they were 25, the clients that I meet with, or younger, to show them how cost effective it actually is. So a little piece of financial literacy is that life insurance and critical illness insurance is actually based on age and other health risks. So the younger they are, the more cost effective it is for them. So one of the things that I show people is the value of that. So in regards to the cost effectiveness, right? Like, hey, what's your plan if something happens to you, or what's your plan if? So I'll ask them the questions like, have you ever thought about, this for an example? And I do that through sharing my personal experiences. At the end of the day, it is their choice, and
Yeah.
my role is to offer options. So the options that people don't know that they have.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think people think there's only one option of insurance, and it's the first person that you chatted with, and that's what happened to me. But what's really cool is that as a broker, I actually have more variety and
Hmm.
different options. So when I'm sitting with a client, it's actually, we're building it together. It is something that we're doing together with
That's important.
the values and the interests and the product and services that they actually want, that makes sense for them. So the client has a
Yeah.
really big say in the plans that we put in.
It sounds like you get buy-in. You get buy-in from them.
Well, totally.
Right.
And if they don't
Yeah.
see the value, um, then how do we protect people, right? They got to see the
Yeah.
value of that. And I mean, I can share stories of the challenges and the hardships, but then I also really appreciate that I can share the good stories of one of an agent in our brokerage actually. She was her first critical illness claim.
Wow.
How cool is that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just to understand, like, holy cow, this is like, it worked. And I sold, it actually does work. It's something that, I'm better off because of it now, right? It's always believing in the
Totally.
product you sell, right?
Yep, exactly.
That's fantastic. That's good. So what are the other things that you financially broker out then?
Yeah, so in terms of insurances, what we look at is tax shelters, which is a form of life insurance, critical illness, disability plans, children's tax shelters. So a lot of the time people don't know that you can actually get life insurance on children. So they only have to be 15 days old. Um, I find
15
parents,
days. Holy cow.
yeah,
What is that? Like a
they,
quarter a month for the
yeah.
next X number of years?
It's
Jeez.
honestly, it's so awesome when we put these, we call them peanut plans,
Oh,
because they're just so cute and so little. And but really, like, when a family does that for their kids, right, they've just set up that kid for an amazing future.
yeah.
So that's a really large portion of when I'm working with families, teaching them that they can also do that. And then we help families retire with enough money. So we're teaching them about their financial independence number and what that actually means and how it's so customized for them. And so we can use vehicles like the RRSPs, tax free savings accounts. We're soon going to have access to the first time homebuyer savings account.
Oh, good.
Um, Things like our ESPs for kids' education, our DSPs, and something that I didn't have a clue about before getting into the industry was the difference between a mutual fund and a segregated fund. That to me
Mm.
was something that I think everybody should know that they have the option of, and where things are at now as opposed to maybe where they were at 20 years ago.
So give me that. Give me the difference between a mutual fund and a seg fund for people who don't know.
Yes. So to keep it very, very simple, you're going to have there's four areas to invest. Basically, I'll kind of go over a brief overview. So you've got your GICs, which are guaranteed, usually for a period of time, low return, barely keep up with inflation. And then you have your bonds and your stocks, right? So you can have a medium risk, medium return, and then your investment funds are a collection of stocks and bonds. So these are
Yep.
professionally money managed. So I am not a fund manager. That is not something that I have any interest in doing. I'm going to pay a professional to do that. So a segregated fund and mutual fund are pretty similar, right? The major difference is that a segregated fund actually has guaranteed options. So the guarantees can be a 75% or 100% guarantee. And then they also have I like to describe it like a toonie. So they have the inside, which is the investment. And then the outside ring is essentially like a life insurance contract. So
Oh,
the
I like how you
reason why
describe
this
that.
is,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, thank you. It helped me when I was studying. I needed a visual for that. So it's got a life insurance jacket. So what that does is, instead of your investments going through probate when you pass away, a segregated fund has the ability to bypass probate. So what that means is it means a quicker return to the family. So you don't have to wait the 1 to 2 years for it to go through probate. And then more money actually stays within the family as opposed to going through that whole probate process.
Got it.
I hope
It's
that
funny
makes
that,
sense.
well, so it does for me. If not, there's a feature on podcasts where you can go back and forth slower and quicker if you want. So people can go back and listen
Awesome.
to that again if they want to. It's
Awesome.
funny that we see a lot of this now where people are trying to be very tax savvy. And I think it's not difficult to do if you have the right advice. And I find that the more and more we are taxed to death in Canada, the more and more people are like trying to find, I don't want to use the term loopholes, but just be tax efficient with your money in some way, shape, or form. And, we see that with realtors, with their personal real estate corporations. Now they're allowed to do that.
Yep.
I heard another tax strategy of, we have a partner that does home equity bank that does reverse mortgages. She's like, one good tax strategy there is max out the lending on the house, and you only pay capital gains on the actual equity. Seg funds. Like, there's all sorts of little things. And my wife and I, we're at that point now where we're like mid 40s. We're like, all right, what do we need to be changing to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
all this, the wealth and I'm not wealthy by any means, believe me. Here I am doing a podcast in my basement. Believe me, I'm not wealthy, but how do we take whatever we have earned and we've saved and whatever, and we've worked hard for, to make sure the term generational wealth, to make sure our kids and their kids, we can pass it on to them so they can benefit from it, right? So it's important. You were saying about life insurance on 15-day-old kids. Well, we waited till they were 14 and 16, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and we got
Mm-hmm.
life insurance on them, and the ongoing joke is careful what you say because you're insured now. So
Yeah.
but and that's their wedding gift. Like, hey, by the way, we're getting you $500,000 for your birthday, or for your wedding, by the way, FYI. So but yeah, it's important, but because we don't know. You said this earlier, like, people don't know, but you can do some of this stuff. It's not expensive, it's simple, and a financial literacy, like, it is what it is, right?
Yeah. I think one of the most important pieces there is, you kind of said this at the beginning, is that people are very willing to go to Starbucks or do Uber Eats, skip the dishes, all these things. Um, but sometimes they're just not aware of how valuable an insurance plan could be, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that I really stress, especially when I meet with younger people, um, how cool it can be and how relieving and impactful it is for your family, not just in current moment, but generationally. It's
Yeah.
really cool to see how that's going to transition for the next generations to come. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, and I think too, it's the baby boomers. Listen, they're living longer, right? I got a baby boomer mom, and my wife has. There's all four. Four. Everyone's still alive, and they live longer, and they're holding on to their wealth longer. And
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to explain, because obviously kind of in the business, and Tracy listens to me talk all the time, and we're trying to explain to them, hey, make sure your shit's taken care of, because seriously, we see stuff go horribly wrong, right?
Yeah.
Who's the lawyer? Where's the will? Like, who gets what, right? Who's in charge? Like, just be understanding of what's going to happen when you pass away, because I don't want to deal with this crap when you die. Like, I want to know what you want now, and we'll all talk about it and figure it out, because it's a pain when it goes wrong.
Yeah, and truthfully, I mean, the stats are that 1 in 2 people in Canada are going to get a critical illness. So if the odds are 50% of us are going to get a critical illness, and yet it's not mandatory to get critical illness insurance,
Yeah.
like, just think about that for a second. Or here's another interesting piece that I also will share with clients is we are all guaranteed to die. Like that is a guarantee.
It's gonna happen,
So,
man.
I mean, it's kind of morbid in a way, but the reality is like if something's so guaranteed to happen, but we're not it's not mandatory to get protection for your family, that to me is so confusing. Where, like, take car insurance for an example, it is illegal not to have it,
I
right?
know.
But there's no guarantee you're ever going to get into a car accident.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
It's
just one of
so
those things.
so ass backwards. It's so ass. Start the list. Like seriously, start a list, Brittany, of stuff that's
Yes.
ass backwards, right? Like good grief, man.
Yeah.
So, listen, times are tough right now. Okay, rates are high. You know, you go to the grocery store, you get a loaf of bread and a thing of juice, and boom, you got $20, right? I see it on my end with mortgages. Listen, people don't know what to do, right?
Hmm.
Household debt is increasing. I would argue poverty is increasing. Okay. We have people coming to Canada through immigration for a better life, and their better life is on the street, you know. So things are not real good right now. Probably the most turmoil outside of a world war, and knock on wood, I've never been around for that, but outside of that, I mean, probably one of the toughest times I've ever seen as a person alive on this earth. So,
Hmm.
what are you seeing with your clients who come to you? Because obviously, with that financial literacy kind of tab there, people are going to ask you a lot of questions around a bunch of stuff. What are you seeing right now?
Holy smokes. Well, you kind of nailed it. Like people are struggling right now.
Yeah.
In a large capacity. And it's different, I would say, for each generation. So I would say like the 20 to 30-year olds, they're struggling to have enough money to pay rent, not even just save for a down payment, but the
Yeah.
the rent cost alone. So we're seeing them staying with their parents a little bit longer, which again, that will hold stress on everybody, but the 30 to 40-year olds, like what we're seeing right now is okay, so if you're in a house, your mortgage is coming up for renewal. People are stressed out about that. There is a lot of consumer debt. So I think people are trying to keep up with the Joneses, and they're not living below their means. And that has been a historic thing is we got to have the next newest vehicle as opposed to strategizing and paying your vehicle off and then saving the same amount of your car payment to go into your next vehicle, right? Those
Yeah.
strategies is just not being implemented because it hasn't been shown or taught anywhere. And
And,
then I would,
and we haven't done it for the last 10 years. Haven't had to do it,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Low rates,
exactly.
free money, everything goes up in value. So we're not accustomed to it. Sorry, I interrupted you,
Yeah,
but like
yeah. No,
that
that's
captures it. So
yeah, exactly. And then I would say, young families, right? They're seeing the hardship of whether they're in a home or not, right? It's one of those things where yeah, it's expensive to put your kids in sports, and it's expensive to have your kids enrolled in different activities. And so I think people are doing it anyways, but
yeah,
what I see is that they're compromising their their mental health. Their mental
yeah.
health is decreasing. The stress, the anxiety, the depression is really a real thing. I actually saw a post where it was somebody who was living on the streets, and they said they'd rather live on the streets than have the stress of a mortgage payment increase. And I said, how insane is that is the preferred
Wow.
lifestyle? um and then getting into people who are closer to retirement, well, they're definitely worried about what their money is doing if they've saved for retirement. I also see a lot of people in their 40s to 50s who they didn't even think to start saving for retirement, or they rely on their workplace to have a pension for them. And, we saw a huge factory up in one of the small towns that we've got a team there, and the whole factory shut down. So people
Ooh.
don't know what to do with their pension plans. There's just not not a lot of knowledge around what their options are. And
Yeah.
then I would say people who are, living off CPP or OAS, they're also struggling because their payments aren't increasing, but the
Yeah.
cost of living is increasing. So there's so much hardship right now. And I think when I look at it coming from a mental health perspective, that's why I'm so passionate about expanding and teaching more people and community members about financial literacy so that I'm still impacting their wellness and their mental health just using a different vehicle.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because I think the more and more we have what we have right now, I think a part of people trying to make themselves feel better, and I'm probably kind of butchering what I'm about to say, but I'll try to make sure it comes off with the right intention. So the more and more stressful stuff gets, the more apt they're probably to spend money to try to make themselves feel good. Okay, and I'm sure there's a much better clinical way to explain that, but I
Totally.
see that. Yeah, I see
Yeah.
that from people, right? I
Yeah.
see you're are we living above our means? No, but you know what? We're always used to taking a vacation because I need a
Mm-hmm.
break instead of a staycation because you can't bloody well afford it,
Yeah.
right? It's we can't refi anymore. People just keep refining because there's just more money raining down on us. But now I see this in my family. Listen, through the height of COVID, I was blessed to be extremely busy. Okay, we all know what the housing market did. I was going freaking nonstop. The way I looked at it, if I was too damn busy to cook food, my wife has her health issues. Then we could get something, and we weren't eating the keg every night. But you know what? If we had to order something, we order something in. We seriously eat out once a week, maybe now, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are like skip the dishes. I think make less money because of us. Like it's just but we've had to do it. Guess what? Shh, that's it.
Yeah.
We cook now
Yeah.
because we have time. Like that's the way it should be anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the we don't go really on vacation. If we do, we usually just kind of drive somewhere, go away for a weekend or whatever. We ain't hopping on a plane and buggering off somewhere. So I think it's a double-edged sword though. Let's think about this for
Mm-hmm.
a second. Now all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden we get more conservative and we're gonna manage our money and live below our means, whatever. Well, guess what? Now the economy is impacted, right? And listen, it's not my responsibility to manage the economy. Listen, I'm a self-employed mortgage guy, so I mean, just call it what it is. But it's almost like that will start to now happen, right? So then you got the economy downturn, you got unemployment. It's just like, where is this going to end and how does it end? So yeah, I get what you're saying totally around the mental side and just kind of, trying to wrap your brain around what this whole thing kind of looks like in the current state.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important for people to sit with a financial professional, because you can really get a holistic picture of where their money is going, what is coming in, where are some of the habits that maybe we need to look at adjusting or shifting. And ultimately, like, my main goal is to save clients money. So if I do
Yeah.
that through a home and auto referral, that's amazing. Some of my clients, I've saved $50 to $100 a month just in changing their home and auto insurance. So imagine what that could do for a family.
Yeah.
On average, what we find is we can save between $100 to $500 per family just by switching a few things. Now what we can do is now we can create more of an affordable solution for the protection plans, but then also start them on the habit of saving. I think
Mm.
that's a big piece, is that people have not been shown, hey, how much should we be investing into ourselves? Should we be paying ourselves? What does that look like? Especially entrepreneurs, you got to take responsibility of,
Yeah. Sorry.
saving saving for your taxes, the expenses, the incomes, all of these
Yeah.
components are not really shown anywhere unless you have a mentor or a business coach or a really good accountant who will actually show you what to do. And then from there, it takes habit and discipline. And I think
It
that's a big piece.
it's funny because I mean, as everybody knows, I've switched from, being 100% commission based with a bank and becoming a sole proprietor as a mortgage
Mm.
broker. And um, yeah, that's, you know what, seriously, that's tough to do. So when I used to do, I still do, but when I do deals for realtors, okay, and there's a bunch of them listening to this, so they're going to appreciate my humor. If they don't, well, I'm sorry in
Yeah.
advance, but it's tough. They make a sale, they got to deal with their HST, they got to pay their personal income tax, and sometimes it just doesn't get done, or they forget to save, or every sort of different whatever you could probably possibly imagine. And I used to be like, oh, come on, guys, really? Separate bank account, save money comes in 30% to the other account. What are we doing
Yep.
here, guys? Come on, right?
Yep.
Now that I'm doing it, I'm like, damn, I see that money in the other account, and I'm like, man, what could I be using that for, right? But
Yeah.
it's discipline. Like I have that. It goes right to another account, and that's my income tax, right? But I get it. It's now that again I'm in this scenario, I'm like, oh, I get why that money is so shiny over there, right? So, but
Totally.
understanding,
Totally.
right? So,
Yeah, I think that's a really tough part for, because I find, maybe you're the same, but a lot of people are going to entrepreneurship,
yes,
working for themselves, especially after COVID. They saw how working for somebody else really was not their cup of tea. And it wasn't mine anymore. To be honest, like,
yeah,
wasn't mine anymore. And I feel like I put my time in as an employee. My boss always made more than me, no matter how many years or how hard I worked. And so I think
yeah,
entrepreneurship is one of the best ways for people to take control of their finances and learn how it works, but also recognize that, hey, I'm not a tax specialist. So I
yeah,
have a tax specialist in my toolbox. I have somebody who I can talk to about, maybe my mindset around money, and why is that money so shiny sitting in the bank account, and where does that come from? Or taking a look at, our emotional connection with money. So there's different personalities with money, and how you spend it or how you save it, how you avoid it. So all of these components go into your overall financial health. And I think it's really cool that there are more resources that people can learn about it now.
it's true. So that actually brings me right into the next thing I want to talk to you about. So we're coming off a time where you said it and it's true, a lot of new entrepreneurs, okay? And I know in the housing sector, realtors and mortgage brokers, agents, whatever, we're coming off a time right now where everybody thought they could do the job. Everybody could
Mm-hmm.
get a mortgage license and do mortgages. Everyone could get a real estate license and do real estate. Okay. I'm sure you saw it in your world. Everyone could write the insurance exam and sell insurance to people. Okay. So we have a lot of people right now that maybe are A, not in it for the right reasons, and B, maybe don't have necessarily the knowledge or the experience to really give the client the advice and the knowledge like you do, um to get them to their goals, right? So, and we see it in the mortgage industry, like seriously, way too many mortgage brokers and agents, just there's so many of them, right? I think the number
Yeah.
was in 2021 29,000 in Ontario or something like that, like crazy,
Wow.
right? It's insane. Oh yeah, exactly. But
Wow.
again, for us, I call it the HGTV generation. Everybody
Yeah.
can get rich on real estate in some way, shape, or form, right? So
Yeah.
here's my question with a huge preamble. So what do people? So I'm sitting at home with my wife, and I'm like, man, I heard this really awesome podcast. This Steven guy, this Brittany lady, they're amazing, they're fantastic, and they're talking about financial literacy. Okay, when they come in and they speak to, let's say they want to talk to Brittany, they also want to talk to their neighbor Ted, okay, who works for Investors Group, or I don't know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When they come to you, what should they be asking? How do they vet someone like yourself to try to understand, is this person for real or not? Walk me through that.
Well, that's a really good question. And I think more people should be doing that, to be honest. The number one thing I would say is, do you relate to that person? first and foremost, do you trust them? Are they a trustworthy person? Like trusting your gut and your intuition, right? You can kind of tell when people are not in a business for the right reasons, and you might feel like, I don't know, they're that salesy, pitchy kind of personality. Um, Research, right? Go and talk to different brokerages or go and talk to different mentors. Whenever somebody comes to me and they're thinking about joining my team or getting their insurance license, you want to know, is this a good fit for both parties?
Yes.
Is it a good fit for both parties? And ultimately, I'm willing to train, we have welders and plumbers who got injured, or construction workers who've been injured and they need to retrain. And this is a very lucrative industry. So it's incentivizing for them to retrain. So what I say is, where's your commitment level, right? Because I'm going to stick with my trainees until they feel ready to be on their own. So that's another piece is, are they coachable? Can you share some strategies and some different approaches that will help them run their business more effectively? And ultimately, people don't have to be super coachable in the beginning, because I do find there's a lot of resistance and there's a lot of learning. But the ability to build that trusting relationship, that trust and rapport with your mentor or your trainer is very, very important. Another component I would say that they should look into is, what are some of the client reviews?
Yeah.
So this is really important, because shop around is, I think, so undervalued, right? If people have another insurance agent or if they have another investment company, hey, what we're looking to do is find the best for you. So go shop around. I really encourage people to do that. Like if they want to go work for another company, great. Go try it out. See if it works for you. Ultimately, I just want what's best for that person. And I think the other thing is, like I said, that they're a likable person. You got to like who you're working with. But yeah, that's a really good question for sure.
Yeah, I think on both ends too. So I mean, as you know, I'm growing my team, right? So I've hired my first, not hired, but I brought on, they're not really hired,
Yeah.
they're contractor,
Yeah.
but they're part of my thing here, my little thing that I run, whatever. But in both sides, so whether I'm dealing with my clients or I'm dealing with potential new agents, I always say the same thing, and especially if I get it with the client where I'm like, they're not too sure. I don't know if it's experience or I'm just getting older and it's like whatever, but I'm like, go check out other stuff, man. Seriously, I'm gonna ask for. I'm at one point, and this is both if I'm hiring or if it's a client, I'm gonna ask for a commitment from you.
Mm-hmm.
And in my heart of hearts, it's, if it's a client, listen, before I start doing all this damn work, I need to know that you want to do this, right? Like
Totally.
I'm not a salaried individual. I do have a business to run. And then on the employee side, it's like, all right, before I make an investment in you, I want to make sure you've checked everything out, that I'm your guy. I'm the one you want to be at, and you're not going to go somewhere else in a month or two and be like, oh man, this is a lot shinier over here, right? So I think that's an experience thing. That's it's an experience thing from the standpoint that you don't fear the answer, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay, man. You don't want to be here, don't be here. I tell clients, if you can find a better deal somewhere else, I'm cool with it, man. Because I've just saved myself hours of agony. Do what's right for your family. I do that. I do what's right for my family all the time. Whatever, right? So it's not bad. It's a good thing. So
you made me think about, the saying, the grass is always greener on the other side, and it's not true. The grass is green where you water it and fertilize it and nurture it and cut it. And so I think for me, it's just like you said, if people are willing to commit to, hey, learning a new industry, learning a business, learning who knows, like a mortgage, whatever it is. Like I'm connected with so many entrepreneurs because, number one, we have to all support each other. So that's first and foremost. But number two is, I really recommend people invest in themselves. So I was working with a coach for quite some time. I have a mentor. I read a lot of personal development books. I study the books. And I think that taking ownership of your business or your life or your financial health or whatever it is, whatever component of life, right? It's going to be a lot more empowered when you are in ownership of that, and when you're actually able to sorry, I got a lunch delivery. This is amazing. Thank you. We got distracted there, so this is great.
How's the work from home thing going there, Brittany?
Right? Whether it's the dog, the cat, the kid, the lunch, the husband, it happens, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so empowering your own life by your own actions, I think, is ultimately where I see the people who are successful, right?
Yeah.
There are some times where people think business is just going to easily happen for them, or their financial plan is just going to easily change. And no, it takes some nurturing, it takes some fertilizing, and it takes, some awareness and consciousness of what you're actually doing.
Okay, let's trade some secrets here, because man, what you're going through, I'm going through as well. Okay, so listen, I'm growing my team. You're growing your team. All right.
Yep.
People always think this job is so easy. Like, mortgages, don't even need to know how to spell it. I can do a freaking mortgage. What are we talking about, right? It's easy. It's not a big deal. Whatever. I can do it. It's easy. Okay. When you're interviewing folks, and listen, part of the Green Effect podcast, we talk about leadership. So this is where I want to go down this road. So
love it.
How do you deal with that as someone who is hiring for a self-employed, eat what you kill job? How do you manage that? How do you set expectations? How do you weed people out that don't have a clue? What do you do?
Well, I mean, first and foremost is I'm very transparent, right? In all of our follow-up interviews, I will say, like, this is not a get rich quick kind of business. It takes a couple years for you to build a clientele, build a reputation, build connections, network, create a team if that's what you want. Some people don't, and that's totally fine. But I like to be very transparent, because then down the road, it's not a surprise when it's hard, right? I just had this conversation with a woman today, and she said, well, I'm a little bit nervous that this is going to be hard. And my response to her was, well, most good things are pretty hard. So that's usually what I say is things just don't come naturally to most people, right? We got to work. We got to go through a lot of crap to get to the good side. So actually one of my mentors, he says this analogy, and he said it in Banff this past year. And I always have this visual, so I'm sorry for the visual that it's going to give you as well. But if you're told that there is a massive, shiny, big, beautiful diamond in a massive pile of shit, are you willing to jump into the pile of shit and just go find the diamond? Are you actually willing to go and do that? Yeah. You know it's there. It's there, right? You see it. It's there. How much shit are you willing to go through to get the diamond? And then when you do get it, how awesome does it feel? Because guess what? You can go shower. You can scrub it all off, right? And then you might have a few smaller shit piles to deal with, but at the end of the day, you get a diamond out of it. And so the diamond for people is so different, right? Yep. The diamond represents something different for you, for me, for the team members that I have. So as a leader on the team, what I like to do is I like to find out, well, what is their diamond?
Yep.
What do they want out of running a business? Do they want flexibility? Do they want time freedom? Do they want financial freedom? Do they want to just make an extra couple $1,000 so that they can put their kids in hockey, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, right? It's my job, it's my role to find out what that is. And sometimes my business, it's not the answer. It might be something else, but as long as I have offered and been transparent and been honest, I believe that people will land where they need to land.
Love it. Love it. You say things so nicely. Whereas, again, maybe I'm just getting old, Brittany. I don't know, but I meet with some of these people. What you've said, transparency, being honest. Do you know how many mortgage brokerages freaking lie to people? Okay, and listen, coming out of my previous life with RBC as a mortgage specialist, I met with a few brokerages, and I'm telling you, all of them except the one that I joined, freaking didn't tell me something, and it was
Mm.
freaking important. Like, be transparent, right? And so when I'm interviewing right now, listen, I'm busy, man. I don't know, and again, I'm being blunt with what you've kind of just said. So now I'm giving you
Yeah.
the other side of it. And
Yeah.
feel free to steal what I say because I don't know if it's working or not. But anyway, I I'm brutally honest because I don't have time to beat around the bush. I just
Yep.
don't. Okay. And when I meet with people, and listen, I'm willing, if you've got a kick ass resume and you're in sales and you've got communication skills and organize, whatever, like if you're like, you're selling something somewhere, it's just not mortgages and we can transfer it, dude, I will spend the time. I am down with that. I'm good, right?
Totally.
But when I get people come in for these interviews who don't know what's going on or what to expect, so maybe I saw something on their resume, and I'm honest with them. So look, if you get past the first interview and you want to talk to me again after this, we'll talk. But I said, I'm going to give you the bad, good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And I tell them, it's on one of my friggin' interview questions. You will not make any money for minimum the first 3 months, period. And no money. You're not making a dime. Still want it? Let's talk, right? You will be rejected more than you are accepted. People will lie to you nonstop, okay? People, you will do a lot of work and get paid zero because they go somewhere else, right?
Yep.
And these are long hours. You've got to be up late dealing with stuff. You're lying in bed talking to a real estate agent at 10:30 at night while your wife's pissed off beside you. Are you ready for this? Because believe me, it's as good as it sounds. And so I try to tell them, I'm trying to be transparent here, man. I am not putting my time into this if it's not the best move for you. Now, do I scare people away? Fine. One person didn't get scared and he's working with us and he's killing it, right?
Yeah.
But he gets it. And I don't know, maybe I got to change, maybe I got to be nicer like you, but I got to make sure that they're in it. I can't have my time wasted and you think that I've sold you a bill of goods,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if it comes out better, which it usually does, it's not this bad, then you know what? You're going to be a lot more happier because you're like, damn, this turned out really, really well, even though Steven was an ass on the first call. Perfect, right? That's what I want, right? So I don't know, man. That's what I find. And I think people don't, we're at the point, I think, where people have transitioned now to, we want to work from home. We want to work from home. I need an easy job I
Yes.
can do from home. Dude,
Yes.
do not apply to my job, please. If you see Stephen Green, the financial club, don't apply if that's you, because that's not what this is. It's just not. You got to put pants on once in a while and leave the basement. So I don't know if you see
Yeah.
that with people that come to you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it is a challenge too, because people want easy money. They want to do the least amount of work. I'm grateful, to be honest, that I don't really see that in our team. I think people do know that it takes a lot of work ultimately, but there's this whole trend, and it's a great trend if it works for you, of running an online business and having passive income and not doing any of the work. Great. um Sign me up, that sounds awesome, but ultimately, like,
Are
I
they
can do
hiring?
that, but yeah, right. But and most of them, right, you don't have to have any credentials, or you don't have to have any um regulations that you need to follow, right? It's kind of, go as you please, and that's great, and it works for some people. But I've also seen where people want to add value to others, and they want to really change their life. And I don't know if you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but that book basically has, in the very beginning, the one dad says, you know what? You show up to this work, you're not going to get paid for X amount of months. But in the long run, it's going to work in your favor. And so that's what came up in my mind when you were explaining that. And I do encourage
Yeah.
people to read that, because then you're going to know, like, am I an employee? And some people are great employees. They
Yeah.
just want to show up when they're told. They just want to do what the minimum job is. They might do a great job. But then there's other people who think that that's the only way to have security, to have safety
Yeah.
in finance. They're very afraid of commission-based work. And I think that is also a challenge, is that people are so scared to get out of their comfort zone and try something and see if it is a good fit for them. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest piece that I see, is that they're so used to that employee mentality or lifestyle. And don't get me wrong, I was too. Like, my first year in business, I
Yeah.
was like, what do you mean I'm not getting paid the same amount every other week on the Friday? Like, I can't
Yes.
do this. Like, it was a very big slap in the face when you're like, it was a nice tap, but it was like, holy smokes, like, this is not okay. This needs to
Yeah.
be an adjustment. And I've read the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. I'm on my second time now. And it's, as long as you're committed to learning about business, learning about entrepreneurship, you're willing to be mentored and coached. Like, I think that's the other thing too, is that people have to align with their coach. They have to connect and
Yeah.
relate. And I was just chatting with some of the guys on the team. I said, you know what? I'm probably not the best mentor for you, because I'm pretty soft. Like, I approach things with a very, like, feminine energy, and I'm working on that, because I do think the discipline and the we'll call it authoritative approach, it works for people, right? People
Yeah.
need to be told, do this, you'll have this, and then do this, and then do this. Um, and that works for some people. But other people, you got to take a softer approach. And that's kind of where I come
Yeah.
in. But I like the balance. I like having the diversity that, okay, if you need more of like the drill sergeant, if you need like a Stephen Green kind of mentor, here it is. Here's that person. Or if you need, kind
Yeah.
of the soft, emotional person, we're going to validate your feelings, but we're also going to nicely challenge you. You need the Brittany Dewing
Don't
approach.
call me, man. Seriously. You know what? As I'm hearing you talk, I'm thinking, just so everybody knows, I'm actually not a complete jerk. Okay,
I would not describe you that way either.
No, thank you, thank you. It's the other thing I try to do, and I think I don't know if we spoke about this, but the disc profile. Have we spoken about this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I did mine. All right, and I did mine probably 20 years ago, and I've updated it here and there, and I actually do it before before I take you on, I get them to do the disc profile. I need to know
Yep.
who I'm working with, because at the end of the day, again, I'm not a major corporation. I'm a guy who thinks he kind of knows what he's doing, who can probably help people build his business, right? Build their business. And I need to know who I'm working with, because I know me, I'm a high DI with a very strong C. I don't get along with everybody. I can get along with
Yeah.
most people, but I'm usually right, and that's it. So I need to
Yeah.
know, like both of my assistants, we did discs on them, right? Because I need to know when I gotta park my high D to work with Sarah's high S, because she is absolutely the right person for the job. 100% totally, she's the right person for the job. But I can screw it up so easily because I can't park my D to be able to help her strong S, right? So, we brought on, like, Jonathan's one of our newest agents. His C is like non-existent. If there was negative for C, he would be that, okay? And so I've already I've addressed it, and I've said, hey, listen, you got to do this, but you have to prioritize this over the activities that really that lend itself to your high I. You got to do this first, because you're not going to want to do it, right? So I think as a leader, when you're trying to find people, it's understanding also what makes them tick, right? If I get someone who's a high, like a Sarah or my other assistant Selena, they're high S's, man. They're like, no confrontation.
Yeah.
Tell me, tell me how to manage my box, and I will manage it. That's it. I don't want to make
Yeah.
decisions, right? So, but that's okay. They are
Yeah.
not mortgage agents. They are
Yeah.
incredible admins, and that's okay, right? We got the right people in the right job. So it's knowing who's on your team and what makes them tick. And because I'm a high DI with a strong C, I have to put a disc on everybody so I don't piss them off and they want to leave. Like it is what it is. And I think for the most part, I hope the girls listen to this once in a while and they're like, okay, yeah, Steven's good. We're good. We know he doesn't hate us. So I don't know. That's how I manage myself and my team. I'm actually not a bad guy, just for disclaimer purposes, but I had that with volleyball. So Chris, you and I know each other from
Yep.
volleyball back in the day, and you coached, right? You were an assistant for many years, and I was the head coach that, probably threw a thing here or there. I had a client referred to me from one of my realtor partners, and the realtor said, "So I got a client for you, but you coached her daughter, and she said you threw a clipboard." And I'm like, "Really? Out of all the life lessons I've taught you people, you remember the clipboard going flying across the gym? That's what you remember? Like, are you kidding
Yep.
me, man? You don't remember all the other cool stuff you learned?" Anyway,
But
I
it's
don't know.
kind of cool
I don't know how
because,
you find it, right?
well, coming from coaching, right, it is kind of neat because there are a lot of transferable components. You got to learn how different people are going to hear you. And I found that in social work too, as a counselor. One
Yeah.
of the reasons why I truly believe I got the first like adult real job was I had already recognized that if I have a caseload of 50 clients, I am now 50 different types of counselor, right? Like I had to learn about the person sitting across from me. I had to learn about them and stay curious about them. Now I get to do that with my team, and it's a lot more fun, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like a lot more fun, a lot more conversation about just being curious about each other, because we're not all built the same. We're not all wired the same. We all have different needs, but at the end of the day, if you're showing up, hey, that's awesome. But how do we enhance things for everybody, and how do we connect deeper to people, and how do we relate and provide our services for people? And ultimately it's creating that connection. And the more you learn about yourself, the better you can help others, in my opinion anyways. So I spend a lot of time learning about myself in the last couple years, and really like the strengths are fillers for somebody else who doesn't have those strengths. And same for another teammate. I've got one teammate, they're so organized and so good on social media. And I'm like in awe. It's like, you want to do that for me and I'll help you in this area. So it's collaborative work. And that's why I truly, I appreciate, the podcast as well, because you're collecting people together to help more people. So
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Do you ever get? I'll end it with this. We'll talk. Let's talk relationships, right? Yeah, like my poor wife, your poor husband, right? Like,
Yes.
is do you ever go to your husband for perspective? Because he's not in this world, right? He probably hears you
No.
chirping and whatever, right? But do you ever go to him for perspective and just say, like, am I crazy? Like, what do you think? Do you ever go to him for that?
Um, to be honest, I sometimes,
Yeah.
but his biggest thing, and I appreciate him so much because one of the biggest challenges that we've had is the timing, right? You said like you're in bed talking to so and so at 10 at night, and I will say that it has, being in business has made our relationship a lot stronger, in
Awesome.
the sense of our communication skills, right? Or
Mm,
like understanding that, okay, yeah, there's a hardship right now, but it's going to be so good when this happens, and then we'll go and celebrate that. Do I ask his opinion on certain things in business? Um, Not particularly, although what I have noticed recently So he's a musician, and he plays shows. They were recently on the radio, and I've watched
Awesome.
him at his shows. And I said to him not too long ago, I said, "You do the exact same thing that I do." And we had this really cool conversation of, okay, so first of all, he networks like crazy. So when we're at a show, he's
Cool.
networking with other musicians, he's talking to all these other people, he's getting them to follow him on social media, like his band page. Now he's selling merch, like all of these components. I'm like,
Awesome.
wow, you're like running a business. And then the really cool component was, I asked him, like, well, why did you, like, literally he chased one of the drummers after the show. He like chased him down and was like, man, that was awesome. Chatted with him, they're gonna connect. And I was like, why did you pick that guy? Like, out of all the musicians there, why did you go to that one? And he
Yeah.
said, well, he's the best one. I was like, okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
why go to him though? Like, seriously. He goes, well, if I'm going to be the best in the room, how am I supposed to get better? So to me,
That's
I was
deep.
like, wow,
That's deep.
that is deep. And like,
Holy
my
cow.
bless my husband, he's a very deep soul, and I love it. But to me, I was like, wow, people in business do that. Like, you should be the smallest person in the room. You should be looking for that in business. With your partnership is always growing and learning and connecting and
Yeah.
learning. And I just, yeah, I think is so. Shout out to him. he's
Yep.
he's been putting up with a lot of like nights alone and me in business, and learning about that, and it's tough for the spouse. It really is. So
Yeah.
shout out to all the
Yeah.
spouses.
Yeah. Sometimes I come home and I'm like, I'm delayed coming home, or I miss something, or she's like, grab milk on the way home, and I forget, and I'm like, all right, what is the cost to me for my screw up? Like, just tell me
Yeah.
how much is. What is the cost to me? Like, you're not talking always monetary, but like, how am I gonna pay for this, right? So yeah, no, because it is tough. I tell it to new agents too. I'm like, hey, be prepared. I
Yeah.
actually do tell them, talk to your spouse, because when you're first starting out, when you're at the dinner table, you might have to answer that phone.
Yes.
Like, it
Yes.
sucks. It's not right. It's not good, but you're starting out in business. So yeah, it's shout out to them. I'm pretty sure Tracy doesn't listen to this, so I can kind of say whatever. But she, God bless her. She's been with me through the whole freaking show. So it's yeah, shout out to them. I ask mine sometimes. So I'm the oldest Italian child. Okay, so I walk on water. Like, whenever I need to, I walk on water. It's all good. But I'll have to sometimes ask, like, was that appropriate? Like, should I have said this, or should I be
Hmm.
doing this, or was that funny? Like little things like that. And she'll be like, yeah, yeah, okay, you were okay, or yeah, you maybe shouldn't have said that, or yeah. We used to have that during coaching when I was coaching as well. Like, I'm like, I said this, and she looked at me weird. I'm like, was it appropriate? She's like, no, no. I'm like,
Just
okay,
no.
no. I'm like, okay, I won't do that again then. But yeah, so they are there. They probably watch us go through the ups, the downs, and the craziness. So yeah, shout out to them for putting up with our
Yeah.
shit. So
And exactly, like, I'm really big on, if the spouse is in business, great, let's meet them, we'll connect with them as well. But agents are always really surprised when their spouse is not in business, and I want to connect with them, meet with them, because they also need a lot of support. And I remember the first time that we were at a conference in Banff, and they had all the spouses stand up, and we got a special invite to sit right at the front table with some really incredible leaders in the conference. And he's
mhm.
standing up, he's beat red, he's like, I don't know why I'm standing up, like, this is really weird, this is your conference, this has nothing to do with me. And I just watched how he went from like skepticism to like, oh my gosh, they understand, they know that I've had a lot of nights alone, they understand that I wish my wife was around here more, like, why is she always talking about
Yeah,
business, like. So it really put that into perspective for me, that you got to pour into yourself, you got to pour into your spouse, you got to pour into your team, because ultimately, if everyone around you is unhappy and you're not looking at yourself, well, look at yourself
yeah.
and then change things up if you can.
So true. It's so true. Oh my gosh, yeah. You've nailed it. We're gonna end on that, because that's that again,
Okay.
Another deep comment. I mean, clearly you've done like psychology or something, because you're coming up with some deep stuff there. And through osmosis, your husband too.
Yes, yes. Well, and to
Uh-huh.
be fair, like it's not been easy, right? Like, we've
Yeah.
both been through a lot of hardship from his accident, and we had to learn a lot. And yes, I'm a very deep person. I love hard. I respect people. I really truly care about people. And so I've also had to learn in business, to toughen up a bit. So that's also helped. um,
Tough
but
skin, man. Tough
I get
skin.
to teach people that as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brittany, it has been awesome having you. We could do this for another hour, but I'm going to stop now because then we can do another one for another hour and we just keep going that way. So I save you
That
for
would be
another
awesome.
episode. So if somebody, shameless plug, if somebody wants to reach out to you to talk about insurance, investment, just financial literacy in general, how do they find you?
Yeah, so honestly, the best way and the fastest way is my cell phone.
Okay.
So my phone number 226-339-4088. I'm sure you can post that somewhere.
Yep. You bet.
People can follow me on Instagram. I am learning a little bit more about Instagram. It's not my favorite, but I am learning to love it. So I don't know what it's called, the handle or whatever.
Yes.
Is Brit Dewing _. So BrittDewing _, and you'll find
Perfect.
me there.
And I follow your stuff too, so if they need to find me to find you, that's cool too. Whatever works,
Totally.
we're connected as well. And they're gonna see this come out too. So, they'll see the podcast and they'll find you there. So
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and just connecting with you and reconnecting with you has been
yeah.
incredible. So thank you for that.
Sounds good. We'll have you on again, that's for sure. So all right, so folks, Green Effect Podcast. So just remember the way we usually end our podcast: like me, love me, follow me, want me, 5 stars, whatever you got to do. And we always end with this. I don't know how old, I can't remember how old you are, it doesn't matter, but we always end, it's an ongoing joke. We always say, keep fit and have fun. Remember participation. I got, other than just saying good night,
I do.
everybody. Yeah, it's like, so you're going to learn, Brittany, we just make shit up on this podcast, all right? It's all just, there's no
I'm down for
script.
that.
Remember, you're like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know, man. We'll figure something out. Don't worry about it. Just come prepared, okay? All right, goodbye. See you later.